11th September 2001. On this day, the tall twin towers of the World Trade Center in New York became the target of terrorist attacks. The whole world was aghast, looking at the scene of destruction. But in a way, these horrendous events had their positive side too, and that was the emergence of a global unity against terrorism. In this regard, India's Prime Minister Ataljee arrived at Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, 7th November. He was warmly received by the Assistant Secretary of State of the USA and several other prominent personalities. The Indian Prime Minister met all the people present there with his characteristic openness. Thursday, 8th November. The Indian Prime Minister met leaders of both houses of the American Congress. The Indian Prime Minister also met the members of the Foreign Relations Committee of the Senate and the Chairman of the House of Representatives, Mr. Dennis Hastert. Always active in strengthening the bilateral ties between India and America, the Congressional Caucus on India hosted a luncheon in honor of the Indian Prime Minister. Friday, 9th November. White House, the American President's official residence, was waiting for the Indian Prime Minister. The Indian Prime Minister reached the White House exactly on the scheduled time. He was received by the American President, George W. Bush.
Leaders such as the Prime Minister fully understand that we must reject terrorism in all its forms, and murder in all its causes, in order for the world to be peaceful. Holland.
This question of cross-border terrorism has been engaging our attention in both the countries. Recently, a bomb attack was made on the Legislative Assembly of the Jammu and Kashmir. Even Pakistan realized that it was a case of terrorism. We have to fight terrorism in all its forms. We have to win this battle against terrorism. There is no other option.
Saturday, 10th November, the fantastic metropolis of New York. Headquarters of the UNO. Addressing the 56th session of the United Nations General Assembly, the Indian Prime Minister said, "This session of the United Nations General Assembly is being held under the shadow of the dastardly terrorist attack that happened on the 11th September. It reminded us dramatically that not any distance nor any power can provide a safety armor to any country against terrorism. By its rigidity, terrorism has declined to accept the values of freedom and tolerance, the values that democratic and pluralistic nations uphold. In this sad moment, when all the countries of the world stand united, the same act of terror has, in a way, given an opportunity to firmly combat terrorism anywhere and any which way it is known. Through its bitter experience, India knows that the terrorists have spread their tentacles all over the world. Religious fundamentalists give rise to it. The steps taken by the UN Security Council in its unanimous adoption of resolutions 1368 and 1373 are in the right direction. But their steadfast implementation will require a strong political will from all the freedom-loving nations. Two aspects are important here. First, stop all the sources of financial and extended to terrorists. Secondly, they will have to leave those places where they find themselves safe to obtain training and weapons to accomplish their evil deeds.
और दूसरी उन्हें उन जगहों से हटाना होगा जहां वे सुरक्षित होकर प्रशिक्षण और हथियार पाते हैं तथा अपने दुष्कृत्यों को अंजाम देते हैं.
We should also reject the selfish logic trying to categorize terrorism on the basis of its primary causes, and hence, on one hand, they would justify terrorism, while on the other, they would criticize it. Let those who present such logic tell us what were the basic reasons behind the barbaric act that happened on 11 September. India supports your present campaign against the network in Afghanistan. We hope it will succeed soon. India will be happy to participate in the programs aiming at the immediate objectives of removing poverty in developing countries. In the preliminary agenda of these bilateral talks, the following activities could be included. 1. Helping low-income countries in the matter of foreign loans. Poverty removal programs should focus on the developing countries, especially the ones struggling against resource crunch. Stabilize the international prices of the primary commodities. The most significant aspect in this realm would be to provide nourishment, health and education to all the needy children, and to launch welfare and developmental programs to save them from hazardous and inhuman work. Eminent Indian poet Rabindranath Tagore has expressed these values and close relations for peace, security and development. Thus, in his visionary words, and I'd like to quote them, "Henceforth, any country, if it decides only for its own good without caring for others, will do so completely against the internal enlightenment of the new age. In doing so, it can't live peacefully. In future, for its own safety, every nation will have to struggle for the global welfare."
और नहीं वो शांति से जी सकता है। अब से आगे प्रत्येक राष्ट्र को अपनी निजी सुरक्षा तथा विकास के लिए पूरे विश्व के कल्याण के लिए जूझना होगा। धन्यवाद।
Sunday, 11th November, the Indian Prime Minister also visited the site of the World Trade Center where thousands of people lost their lives because of the barbaric acts of terrorism that took place on 11 September. His sentiments were manifested through his signature on a wall there. After completing the second leg of his tour, the Indian Prime Minister left for London. Monday, 12th November, the Indian Prime Minister reached London, the last leg of his journey. At London's Heathrow Airport, he was received by the Indian High Commissioner to Britain, Mr. Nateshwar Dayal, and many leading non-resident Indians in Britain. Downing Street, the official residence of the British Prime Minister Tony Blair, who welcomed the Indian Prime Minister. Both the leaders addressed a press conference. Tony Blair said, "Our agreement on the strong alliance and to fight international terrorism in all its forms bears a special significance. The Indian Prime Minister said,
to continue our discussions from last month in Delhi. Relations between our two countries have a strength and vitality of their own. Therefore, the more often we meet, the better it is. As always, our discussions today have been cordial and useful. In February this year, UK became the first country to ban 6 terrorist groups which have caused much death and destruction in India. I also welcome the additional measures which have been taken and those that are being contemplated, provided an important context for our discussions today. Both our countries have been familiar with the ugly face of terrorism for long before September 11th.
After extending his humble contribution to global peace, the Indian Prime Minister returned to his homeland with a sense of accomplishment.